Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sean LaFlock. I'm here with Scotty Hagness. This is Conversations, Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity. Scott, how goes it, my man?
Hey, it's going good. Going good. Busy day, but that's good.
All right. Hopefully, we can squeeze this in without much of a problem here, Scott. I know you're a busy
Yeah,
man.
we'll get
We
done.
are in the start of the 2019 CrossFit season here. And I know what you're saying to yourself. Wait a second, it's still 2018. What does that mean, Sean? Well, we got a bunch of qualifiers going on right now. We got the Dubai CrossFit Championship now. We got the Wadapalooza CrossFit Festival. Those qualifiers are going on right now. I believe the Wadapalooza are done. Maybe the Dubai are done as well. But these are the qualifiers to get in for the 2019 sanctioned CrossFit events. For the elite categories in these competitions, you will get a ticket to the 2019 CrossFit Games.
And so how many folks are they taking?
For the champion of each one of these?
Uh-huh.
Uno.
Just
one.
the one. Yep. Okay.
Just one. I mean, it's unbelievable, right?
Wow.
But yeah, it's pretty competitive. And I know for Wadapalooza, the top prize is $25,000. And I know Dubai has done a pretty sizable first top prize there as well. So we are looking at some serious prize money for qualifying for the CrossFit Games. And to me, Scott, and this is what I'm kind of throw at you, is it seems like this is now becoming a professional sport. What are your thoughts?
I believe, yes. I think this has made some separation. Like it's made it a little more clear, I guess.
Yeah.
Right, because before everyone competes together in the first round and, people can still have this idea in their head that they are the same as the top or at least in the same ballpark. But now it's like, I think a clear separation of professional and amateur like exists in a lot of other sports.
Yes, exactly. And in the words of Greg Glass, so let me just run through all of the qualifiers for this coming year. So I just mentioned the Dubai CrossFit Championship, Wadapalooza CrossFit Festival, the Fitness in Cape Town, which is in South Africa, CrossFit Strength in Depth, that's in London, England, Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge in Baltimore, Maryland, CrossFit Italian Showdown in Milan, the Brazil CrossFit Championship, which is in Sao Paulo, Brazil, the CrossFit Lowlands Throwdown, which is in the Netherlands, CrossFit French Throwdown in Paris, CrossFit Granite Games in Minnesota, and then the CrossFit South Fit CrossFit Challenge in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So I think we have 11, if I'm not mistaken, 11 or 12 or something like that for qualifiers. Now, this is, if you win one of these events, you automatically book your ticket. And from what I've heard, if you win one of these events, that will also give you like a better seating when it comes to the CrossFit Games, if I'm not mistaken, as opposed to just winning your country, which will give you an automatic bid as well.
Interesting. So, and then what would happen? Let's say, an individual wins one of these contests, but then they compete in another one and they win that one as well. Then is the spot go to the second place finisher, or?
That is a good question. That spooky ass door definitely isn't going to give me the answer, but I think what's probably going to happen is they'll probably hand it down to the second place if they've already finished. Because, just think about if you're Matt Fraser, you're probably going to do very well in the Dubai CrossFit Championship, which he is doing. He got an invite. So if he wins that and then he does the Open, he potentially could win both. But I don't know if he's going to if it takes another spot for him. Just reading off of this here. So just in terms of the qualifiers, we have national champions are determined by the CrossFit Open. So those are qualifiers. If you place first place in a sanctioned event, so if you got to win in one of these 12 events, if you are in the top 20 overall finisher in the CrossFit Open, you get an invite, and then you are there are 4 at-large athletes selected by CrossFit Incorporated. Now that is something special as well. So if you're maybe missed out or you got injured or there was something very close, they have, I guess, the wild cards, so to speak, to put into the CrossFit Games.
Interesting.
And this sounds more and more like a real sport by the moment here, right?
Mm-hmm. So the top 20
in the Open
can potentially, get in.
We'll make it. Here's a couple things to throw at you. One, the qualifiers now. So in regionals, if you won regionals, maybe you got like, I think it's $5,000 for top prize if you're the winner, and then I think it went down to $1,000 for fifth place. So they're like, all right, good, you qualified for the CrossFit Games. That's how much you have to go make it to the CrossFit Games. So by doing a qualifier, it if you win $25,000, we're talking about something. This reminds me of something like the Ironman, where they do like the Ironman World Championships, where throughout the year you have to do qualifications to get into the Ironman World Championship in Kona. But they also have the 70.3, and they have multiple events around the world, and athletes would come and compete for the top prize, etc. So this feels a little bit more like that to me. So you get some prize money, and you can accumulate points, or you get into the championships, and then from there you're competing in the World Championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds like a number of sports kind of follow similar path or similar process.
Yeah, and again, it feels more like a legit sport.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to the beginning qualification is an online qualifier. You know what I mean? Like, right. I get it. Like, it makes it all encompassing. So if there is a guy in the middle of like the Arctic who's trying to do CrossFit and he's the baddest man on the planet, he doesn't have to leave his yurt and actually.
It's still a path for him,
It's still a path for him. So there's 20 spots that they're going to be giving, and then if you're the fittest person in your country, so I think that expands the reach of CrossFit in general. So that if you're living in Tanzania, you're still represented, and then it makes it so that that CrossFit decreases the cost of having to do regionals throughout the world. They sanction the events, run your event any way you want. If you want to do like Wadapalooza does, where they do separate amateur events within it, that offsets the cost, and also it gives those who present and put on the event, it gives them some financial incentive to actually do it, and CrossFit doesn't have to pay for that. So that's one thing that that comes to mind. What are your thoughts on that, Scott?
Yeah, I think it makes sense from a lot of levels, both financially and just logistically. I've always wondered what how much they must lose to put those on, even when there were more athletes and more people there. But when you look at the sheer stuff you got to truck around in the arenas, and I have no idea what it costs to rent some of those places, but I'm sure it's not a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just it wasn't a very sustainable financial decision for CrossFit, and they said, listen, we got to run this like a business, or it's not gonna be sustainable, and we're all going to be out of a job soon. The other thing that comes to mind is drug testing for all these events. I don't know if CrossFit is coming in and bringing their drug testing policy. I think they do drug-free sport, but this kind of changes things a little bit in terms of the season in which athletes are going to be tested, or how they're going to be doing testing policies. Just looking across this list here, there's qualifiers all the way from December through June. So, that means that there's basically qualifying all year round, and potential for testing all year round. So I wonder what this will do for the keeping the sport relatively clean.
Right. Yeah. Outside of maybe, some that can get it done early and not have to worry about it for a little while.
Yeah. And I guess it kind of like, there's a whole thing that goes here. So like, all right, I think if you qualify for the Dubai CrossFit Championship, I believe they give you a stipend to get to Dubai. So I think it was like $10,000 or something like that. It was a good amount of money. Like, and they they do it from like top to bottom just to get there, because they realize that most people there's no way they're going to be able to fly to the United Arab Emirates, and then be able to offset the cost of hotels there. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous.
I can imagine that, yeah.
So they originally had done that. I'm pretty sure that they're still doing that. But you also got to be thinking about, like, what is going to be my best bet if you are a CrossFit athlete, like a games athlete, and you're trying to get a spot, picking which event you want to like kind of put your chips on, because you can only be at your peak fitness a few times of the year. So it's like, do I put all my chips down on going to the Granite Games in June and then qualify for the games and then go right into the games in August? Or I think it's in October going forward. But do I qualify early in the year in December and then just be able to peak for the CrossFit Games in October? I mean, this is it throws a big monkey wrench into the competition season, just based upon who's competing where and when people want to get this in. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that Matt Fraser is going to be competing at the Dubai CrossFit Championship in December, because he probably wants to punch his ticket and be like, all right, I'm done for the year. Time to, really do a peaking for the CrossFit Games and not have to worry about regionals now. So potentially we can have a much greater display of fitness come October next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is that a new development? I was thinking that that was staying put.
The timing of the games?
Yeah.
Let me see. We could fact check that. Hold on. 2019.
Because wouldn't that be kind of difficult with like school being back in session? And I thought that was the Open was then.
Yes, they're moving the Open to October, right?
Yeah. Though this year there will be 2.
Yes, they're going to do 2. New elimination style format coming in 2019 CrossFit Games. Okay, yeah, so I think you're right. So I'm correcting what I said. So the Open will be in October, and then the Games is in August.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And just to confirm that what they're going to do in 2019 for the CrossFit Games, because they have so many athletes who are going to be competing, because of the number of countries that are going to be represented, they're going to have an elimination style CrossFit Games.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I was wondering how that was going to go. Yeah.
Potentially you can have 324 athletes who qualify. So they're going to like kind of whittle it down in a couple days and then do like a legit like best of the best from then on. So they do an entire week with pre-qualifying and then have that in terms of like the regular, CrossFit Games style deal.
Mm. So more than just the normal kind of format we've come.
Exactly. Which again, I think it makes sense. So if you're going to have 324 athletes, you're not going to have every single one of them
do the whole thing. Yeah, it makes sense to kind of
So I think it's pretty cool. Again, I think when you have things that are different, it creates excitement and it creates interest. You got to keep things fresh.
For sure. Yeah. Exactly.
So not only is it a good financial decision for CrossFit, but it's also it keeps it relevant. Because I think it's, we're almost getting to that point where it's a little stale, and I think throwing this whole thing, it keeps it fresh for the next 3 to 5 years, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
It'll
take a few years for people to perfect it and kind
exactly,
of really
and then it kind of has a cycle again, and then they throw another monkey wrench in, or maybe it then changes sponsorship. So I think that's probably one of the other things that I think probably runs out to the end of the Reebok contract doing this. So. Maybe that's part of it as well. And, that offsets some of the costs until someone comes in and just says like, all right, we're just going to take this whole thing over and everything's going to be Nike. Everything's going to be Under Armour. And we're going to have sanctioned events all throughout the world. And we're going to run the whole thing. So that might be what they're waiting for as well.
Yeah, that could be. Do you know how long of a contract that was? Was it a 10?
The Reebok contract, I believe, was 10 years. So it started.
Sounds right.
I think it goes to 2022. Because I think in 2012 they took over.
What was that? Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember how long it had been. I knew it was at least that long ago, but maybe even longer. But yeah, that might be about right.
So it was in 20. Oh, sorry, it was signed in 2010. So it's 2020. My fault. I knew it was a 10-year contract. I didn't know it was signed. So 2020 is done. So 2 years.
Thinking. Yeah.
Interesting enough. With that contract, the whole thing that was going on with Reebok not fulfilling their part of the deal, I know CrossFit wasn't very happy with that. So they're maybe less of an incentive to re-sign with Reebok.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention Reebok is essentially a dying brand anyway. So their two major hallmarks of sports are the UFC, which fell flat on its face, and CrossFit, which is its only moneymaker, I believe. So, I mean, you got to be Nike and Under Armour, and Adidas, even though it's I think they're a subsidiary of it, licking their chops and ready to nip at the butt on this one. And it's going to be a bidding war. It's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully, what it does is it does something great for the athletes.
Yeah.
Because if it does great for the athletes, then we got a better product. If you got a better product, then you got better coaching, everything is better if that's the case.
Yeah, it's good for all of us at that point.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to appreciate, that regardless of what happens here, if the athletes are taken care of, I think everybody's taken care of. So, segueing to some new developments at CrossFit Portland up there, Scott, you got a little something that came in for you. Can you describe, maybe show some of the viewers here what's going on?
Yeah, I'm moving out here.
Scott is actually going through a haunted house right now, and he just came out the front. So Scott's going to show us a little something.
We practice that for Halloween all the
exactly.
time. All right, so this doesn't look visually very impressive.
Oh, man, I'm impressed.
So what you're looking at there, so I can aim this. This is the K-Box, or eccentric. It's a flywheel training device.
Whoa.
These are flywheels. They're in a padded, protective bag, but they only weigh, what is this? Quarter kilogram. They go on here. Various handles or belts, squat belts attached there. And then you're able to do training exercises standing on the plate. So these can be deadlifts, RDLs, squats of any kind, various lunges, rows, curls, press, all sorts of things. And it's pretty cool. Have you seen or heard of these things?
What's the name of it again, Scott?
It's the K-Box 4 by Eccentrics. It's a
K-Box.
Swedish company. Yeah, it's pretty popular in certain sports performance worlds.
Yes, I believe Ben Bruno has one of those, right?
Yeah,
and I believe I've seen some fitness models and supermodels using those before. All right, so tell me a little bit about it there, Scott.
Yeah, so the unit itself only weighs like 36 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Like I said, the flywheels are really quite light. Even the heavies are quite light. And then all the other parts are light too. It's pretty bulletproof. It's got a little sensor in it, so you can get an app and you can see the power, the wattage or power output of every rep. You set the length really easily by just pressing a button. But basically what it does is, so the flywheel creates inertia. So as hard as you pull up on the strap, whether you're squatting, deadlifting, whatever, it's going to pull that hard back down on you. It's an immediate eccentric overload. And you can even do things to create a additional eccentric overload on certain exercises. But man, like I said, I just picked it up yesterday afternoon. We have it for 2 weeks to try it out. They're not cheap, but I imagine we will probably find a way to get one because it's pretty cool. I just this morning, when I dropped it off, I didn't even have time to play with it. This morning, I did a set of curls and reverse curls, just because it was easy and so reverse curls, right? Normally, you're not going to get too gassed out from performing a set of 10 reverse curls.
Yep.
I felt like I had done a set of 10 deadlifts coming off that thing.
Really?
Because so what happens is that as you're pulling up, it immediately pulls back on you with a lot of force, and you have to brace your body about like you were doing a 1RM deadlift to get through a set of those. If you're putting a proper intent in, now you pull on it with a very mellow force, it's not going to bring much back to you. But if you're getting after it, it basically makes every rep like pretty full on, and you have to like lock down.
Yep.
So I haven't even have not even tried any lower body. Oh, actually, I guess yes, I partially tore my meniscus last Saturday, so I'm not doing any lower body.
Doing what, Scott?
I'm assuming riding. I didn't notice. I didn't crash. I didn't, have any weird twist. Nothing weird happened at all. Finished my session in the afternoon, spent the whole day, even sat in a car, watched a movie, so I was sitting around, not moving a fair amount later in the day. Had no inkling. And then the next morning I woke up and my knee felt weird and not in the way it ever has before. And it's not bad. So it's a partial tear. It's on the outer part that will actually has enough blood flow to heal.
Yep.
I have
so
most
like
of
that
my
little
mobility
bucket
in
handle
it.
thing. Yeah, I've seen those little charts.
Yeah. So, I even rode 2 days after. I've had 2 sessions since I did it, just staying more on the other leg and being careful, but I can't, pull heavy or lunge or anything right now. So there's certain things I can't do with that one leg at the moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, this might be the perfect thing for you then, Scott.
Yeah. I'm excited to play around with it for sure. And there's he showed the guy demoed some things. There's a foot device where you can do like loaded lateral squats in a way I don't really know what other implement could give you. So I'm excited to play with some of those for sure, for like a change of direction and kind of angular force production, and just even an injury prevention kind of a thing. And then just the portability of it. You could take this anywhere to the track for some potentiation work. You could take it, like fit in the backseat of my car.
I was going to say, like, if you're going to go drive somewhere and you're like, oh, I don't have somewhere to. So, like, potentially somebody who does a lot of traveling, you just throw this in their car. You have a little bar with it. That comes with straps, I imagine. So if you want to do squats and that kind of thing, right?
Totally. Yeah, it'll fit in my back seat, even combined. I don't think you're looking at 45 pounds between the flywheels, the deck, and then the attachments you would need.
Now, is it like the bigger the flywheel, the more resistance that you're going to have, Scott?
Yep, exactly. And they do sell some different size units, but this is a smaller one, and you don't need, you can create a ton of force with even these lighter flywheels. So if you're very strong, you're deadlifting 500 plus pounds, this will return that to you. So it's that much resistance in this unit.
You can
do single arm reverse curls or something if you wanted to do that. It also handles a very light load.
Yeah. Because you're not going to be able to pull as much off of it, so it's going to balance it out.
Yep.
What a great idea. I'm looking at some videos now. This thing looks pretty damn cool. And I guess the whole idea that, like, no excuses. You don't need an entire gym anymore. This is your entire gym.
Yeah.
That's a really cool idea. And I'm seeing, it's probably between like $600 and $1,000, depending on the model you get.
Some of them are. This one, I believe, is $1,400 or so. They're not cheap, but outside of the fact he says the straps will wear out a couple times a year, but you can actually they're a little bit long, so you can trim the end and reuse them. And then the straps he said are like $15 anyway.
Oh, okay, cool. And then it doesn't look like there's a lot of like breakable parts here. It's just some flywheel and a chain, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so by next week I should have some.
Yeah, I would love to hear the feedback and what you've been playing around with,
folks. And
I imagine you could probably even do some metabolic training with this stuff.
Well, yeah, as potent as those reverse curls were, like I was actually breathing. I was like, damn. I felt like you could, if you had someone and you did Fran, but you took pull-ups out and had them do K-box reverse curls in place of the pull-ups, it would suck every bit as bad.
Yeah.
If not even maybe worse because of the amount of tension you have to hold your body under.
Let me ask you this, Scott. Is there any kind of research or any information in terms of propensity of injury using this?
I know there is a fair amount of research on it. I have not plowed down into a lot of it. The other setting that these are very popular in is in physical therapy.
I was going to say,
forward-thinking physical therapy. So they're a great tool to use on either end of the spectrum. It has applications with high performers, but also I can see it being, how beginners often have no idea how to create proper full body tension. This thing will pretty much force you to do it. And you could even use something as simple as a curl to teach someone how to irradiate so that they can then understand what a squat or a deadlift maybe ought to feel like, but you're not going to injure yourself doing a reverse curl, So.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear more feedback, and maybe in a couple of weeks, Scott, when I'm up there, you can put me through a little bit of
around
workout
here, and we can try some stuff out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man, what a great looking tool.
Yeah, I even don't know how I would approach it immediately, but as far as some eccentric work for the mobility, cementing, mobility gains and some ranges you've developed but need to build strength in. So eccentric neural grooving is, specifically.
Yes, and maybe like overload training, that kind of stuff even.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because he talked about like you can overload movements. Like if you wanted to do, say, eccentric, again, just because it's a simple move, we can all understand. Let's say you wanted to do eccentrics for bicep curls.
Yep.
So you set the strap slightly longer than you want. And then what you do is you allow a little bit of a deadlift motion at the bottom where you're using some hip drive to pull harder. So now it's going to pull back on you on the eccentric phase with more force than you'd be able to generate using your arms alone. So it'd be kind of like having a spotter pulling weights off the bar for every rep, or manual resistance or something. So it's ways to overload that sort of thing as well.
I was thinking this might be the only thing that might be close to it is someone else, like if you held a rope and they pulled against you.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Very, it's interesting. Like I said, the amount of force, I didn't even try eccentric overload. I didn't even know what that would be like, just it comes back with such a aggressive feeling through the whole.
But it's probably really smooth too, because it's like a continuous pull. It's not like there's some spots where it's like the weight is in this position versus it. It's going to be nice and smooth.
No,
there's probably not as much like degree of freedom as well.
Yeah. Yep,
where you're like maybe you're trying to do like an eccentric on like a back squat, and then all of a sudden it tips forward, and then oh shit, like now I'm eating pavement.
Right. Yeah, if you were doing a hip belt eccentric overload, because it's going to be pulling at the hips, and then you're not going to have that much less likely to really get out of balance forward or back. It's kind of pulling very centered on you.
Yep. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well,
they talked about various, creative things people had done, like attach it up on something and do like lat pull down type stuff with it. And they have another model I didn't even know about that. They have a wall mount unit. So it's basically a pulley system that's also flywheel driven. So for various things. But even within this, there's all kinds of rotational.
The K pulley. K pulley is the ideal horizontal solution for improving strength by offering flywheel training for rotational pulling exercises. Very cool. Not cheap, but very cool.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, just some interesting stuff, but we'll get more into that in the
absolutely.
future.
We'll have to get a little more feedback for next week. But
maybe I'll do a live demo of something. Or,
that'd be really cool when I'm up there, Scott.
Yeah.
Anything else for today?
I think that's a good one for today.
All right, beautiful. Well, before I go, I have to do one thing now that my buddy Freddie kind of turned me on to. Guys, this is the Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity Podcast. If you like this podcast, please rate it, give it 5 stars, and give us a follow. Okay, and if you have any questions for us, please reach out to us. I'm Sean LaFlock at Sean@CrossFitDelrabeach.com.
I'm Scott Hagnes at Scott@CrossFitPortland.com.
Perfect. So you guys have any questions or inquiries, please let us know. Scotty, I'll talk to you next week, my man.
Will do. Have a good week.
Later, dude.
Later.